Hey everybody, welcome to Eternal Brews. My name is Pojo, and today I have another fun one for you. I have been playing around a lot with Ironthorn Ramp. It's one of my favorite sort of silly brews to fiddle about with. I really like casting huge spells and doing like sort of weird cost inefficient things by ramping up to them and basically just getting the best that Eternal has to offer and playing with a lot of the sort of unique legendaries and weird cool spells that we can fiddle around with. And so today I have been playing a Ironthorn Shadow deck, and I wanted to share it with you and talk about it a little bit. Previously we've been doing this in 4 colors, basically as a modification of our Tomorrow Never Dies deck, trying to cast 8 of the Huru. But this time around I thought I'd stretch my legs. We're going to try 3-color Greedthorn, and the basic idea behind it is that we are going to be pushing to set up some of the big shadow spells, specifically Touch of the Umbren, The Last Word, and one of Hall of Lost Kings, because Hall of Lost Kings is delightful and you can cast it both fairly early and fairly often in this deck. It is something of a win more card, so we're only running one of it here, but it is a delightful, delightful option if you're up on life, which this deck tends to be because it is a life gain ramp deck. So let's talk about it a little bit. We have this legendary here, Mask of Torment. It says +1 maximum power, and whenever you gain health, you get another +1 maximum power. And the ultimate is you can pay 20 to play a Tormentor, which is that 8/8 flying overwhelmed charge monster that, if it's dead, plays Spitelings from your void. Lots and lots of stuff going on with this card. So if you know Whispers in the Void, you probably already know what the Tormentor is, but Mask of Torment can actually play it out onto the field very, very quickly as an 8/8 charge, get a lot of damage out of it, but the main thing that Mask of Torment does is it ramps you when you're playing life gain decks, which means that you can do some really interesting Xenan control archetypes. So we're going to play with that a little bit, and the objective here is we're going to use Mask of Torment to cast cards like the Great Parliament, of course, because what would a ramp deck be without owls? That's an interesting question. We might address that at some point. Touch of the Umbren, lifesteal, and stealing some cursed units. So this card is actually kind of one of my favorites, is sort of like a janky legendary from the original Empty Throne set. It very rarely sees use, and the primary reason for that is that it's just a little too hard to cast. But if you can cast it, then you get obvious 2-for-1 advantage. You remove your opponent's unit, you get their unit in return, so you get an exchange, and then also you have lifesteal on it, which means that you can trigger more life force activations and gain more health, so you can set up better for cards like Hall of Lost Kings, of course. Finally, we have the Last Word. If we can get to 18 and cast the Last Word completely cold, that's a really fun way to end the game. I liked this a little more when I was running Harsh Rolls in the deck, but recently we have switched up the removal package. We're instead relying on the strength of our units, because one of the cool things about Xenan Life Force decks is that they actually have a decent curve of units that they can aggress with, so we're going to talk about those as well. Sanctuary Priest is sort of our opener. Now this card combos with Marshal, Ironthorn, and Mask of Torment to make sort of a trifecta. And the basic idea here is that Sanctuary Priest, whenever we play a power with Mask of Torment, it'll gain 1 health, and then you'll get 1 extra power from Mask of Torment. If you play this with Marshal, Ironthorn, and you play a power, you get 2 power, and you get 2 additional power from Mask of Torment, which means that after a Sanctuary Priest is on the board, if you have Ironthorn or Mask of Torment down, playing a Marshal Ironthorn will net you an additional 4 power every time that you play it, which is a whole extra owl. Pretty good stuff. Very easy way to get up to 20, and if you happen to new tomorrow on top of that, then the results can be pretty spectacular. We've easily made 120 power happen in this deck. It's very easy to fill the board with owls in a Mask of Torment Life Force deck, so lots of fun there. Ayan the Abductor is a legendary that we use primarily for that lifesteal ambush ability, but he also is a good power sink because he has something that he can do with 9 power, which means that we have other ways to spend our power than 8 of the Huru, and that's always important. We have a lot of cards like this where they do something cool and extra if you have a lot of power, so that's fairly important for just making sure that we can actually pressure the board. Ayan is very good at countering sort of aggro decks. If they don't have the torch ready, then you just pop it down in front of their Oni Ronin, or you pop it down in front of their Crown Watch Paladin, maybe their Rakano Outlaw if you're feeling particularly risky, and then you get a unit out of it, and you also get some life back, and then you get to attack with this and get lifesteal back. So very, very good way to swing around the board. Very powerful card, and sometimes you just end up trading this as a removal spell, but that's totally fine. Banish. This card's very effective at killing, of course, units or relics, which means you can get rid of Chalices, you can get rid of Sandstorm Titans. Either of those are probably the best options for Banish, but it's a pretty flexible card, and we can use it to kill a lot of stuff, so definitely going to look for a lot of ways to do that. And finally, the new Horus Travers card, Cruciation, which kills a unit with a single faction and gains its health. This one is really, really good for killing Titans and other big cards. Impending Doom is a pretty common target now that there's an Argenport aggro deck out there. And yeah, it's pretty delightful. It's a good way to gain a lot of health and activate more Mask of Torment stuff, but also just to keep yourself alive. The main thing about Cruciation is that it is a control card against aggro that just works really, really well for that. Sometimes your opponent has a lot of hybrid units, and that can be a little bit tricky, but I think it's a very powerful card in that respect. And the other Horus Travers edition is Devoted Theurge, a card that I really like this card. 4/4 for 4, summon, you gain 4 health. And then you can also pay 6 to give it +1/+1 and gain another health. That's an activated Life Force trigger that will, in fact, just basically continue to buff your Mask of Torment. And the more you buff your Mask of Torment, the more you can cast Devoted Theurge's thing, and then you can just get your Mask of Torment even higher. It gets pretty exponential, it gets pretty crazy. I think it's fairly unlikely that Theurge is going to stick around too long, but he ends up being a fairly large unit that also gains you a lot of health and gives you a lot of triggers. And if you don't have any other way to gain life, Theurge is absolutely worth playing the 6/4 because what else are you going to be doing with that massive amount of power? You've got a lot of interesting options, but they aren't always going to be in your hand, and we're looking for a lot of ways to do that with stuff that we have on board. That's about summing it up for what the cards do. We do, of course, have new tomorrow to pay the top 10 power of our deck depleted and do the huge ultimate thing where we can play Ironthorns and blow everything up, and all of the stuff that you've seen from our Tomorrow Never Dies list if you've seen that video. If not, I'll direct you back to it. There will be a link in the description below. Thank you so much. We're going to do a couple of rounds with this, and yeah, then we shall see how it goes. Alright, so we are up against ADP here. The opening hand only has 1 power, so it's a no-brainer as to whether or not we should discard it. Lots of fun stuff in there, but this is much better. Okay, so there's 2 schools of thought on Sanctuary Priest. I think I generally prefer to just play it on 1 here, although it's certainly fine to play it on 2. Because I have Find the Way, 1 is more sensible, so we're just going to set it down, and if it dies, that's fine. We don't actually use any of its Life Force triggers for a couple more turns, and our opponent might get scared and actually like toss something on it that doesn't need to be tossed on it. So Seed of Vengeance sets us up with green. We need double time, double justice, and double shadow. Actually triple shadow for the last word, but other than that we're actually pretty good. So I will go ahead and say, let's go Seed of Vengeance, and I will go ahead and grab that extra time. Now we need that extra justice as well. Extra justice might have actually been more relevant because of the Marshal Ironthorn. I'm not so enthused by my Life Force triggers that I'm not going to stop a Warcry with it, so we'll go ahead and block the Crown Watch Paladin. Now we get a whole Finest Hour out of it, so Sanctuary Priest gains us a total of 4 life and an even trade of cards, which is really, really good. However, there are some Warcries left from the Crown Watch Paladin, which is a bit of a bummer. Sanctuary Priest into Xenan Banner grabs us the extra justice, which we can then play. And then Seed of Vengeance, we are all set up there. Oh, I already had the double justice, so we're all good. I can block this, and I probably still will. My opponent knows that I'm blocking with Sanctuary Priest now, so he's probably less likely to attack. Or perhaps he's going to attack again and use another Finest Hour, which I'm also fine with. I kind of want those out of his deck. Okay, but no, by setting the precedent, we have made it so that he's no longer willing to attack with his Crown Watch Paladin. That's really what I want to have going, especially since keeping the Sanctuary Priest is helpful for later parts of my deck. And now I can get a little frisky with him, in fact. I'm just going to attack in. Deal 1 damage to him. There's no reason not to at this point. I have Desert Marshal to back up if he wants to kill my Temple Scribe, and I can be pretty offensive if I want to, too. By attacking like this, we're setting a different precedent, which is that I am somewhat offensive.
Draw, mister.
And there are a couple of ways in which that can go in my favor. Alright, Desert Marshal here, block the 3/3. Or knock the 3/3 out and block the 2/1. And now I can Iron the Abductor directly in front of Rakano Outlaw, or I can wait and play down Ironthorn. Either way, I think I prefer the Justice Sigil here. Because this deck is kind of aggro, it would be nice to block the Rakano Outlaw. I don't really have any better answers to it for a while, so Seems reasonable. He's got one additional Warcry off of Crownwatch Paladin, but most of his other stuff is pretty reasonably sized. That's a 6/4, and that's pretty scary. I'm going to go ahead and throw Iron in front of it, and for good measure, we're actually just going to double block. He's got 5 cards left, so there's still a lot of threats that he can be playing, but not too many of them are 1-drops, and I'm starting to get to the point where I can stabilize. So Marshal Ironthorn plus a depleted Time Sigil. I could have played Desert Marshal there, but I'm not expecting anything that I want to Desert Marshal this turn. And then from here we have Shadow Sigil into Great Parliament, which is just what I want.
Who says you can't play with
Galen's
fire?
Favor setting up the Fire Sigil, so if we draw into Hall of Lost Kings now, we just win.
Rakano's weapons unmatched.
Found a Banish, not too bad. So I'll play a Shadow here, play a Great Parliament. And I love this Banish, actually, because it actually allows me to kill the 3/3. This card is normally very hard for Shadow decks to kill, but Banish actually gets rid of it. And if there's a Deep Forge plate or something on it, that's a really, really big deal. So we'll go ahead and fight. And I can block with one of my owls next turn, and if he decides to put like a plate or some sort of Finest Hour on it, I can Banish in response. Okay, thus far he's just going Katana. So I'm okay with just losing an owl to double block it here. And if he's actually got a better answer, or I could Desert Marshal it as well. That would only lose 1 owl. Either way, only loses 1 owl, so we'll just block like this. And if he wants to like throw a torch or something to get the other owl, that's his prerogative. But looks like we got through. So now he's running out of steam. Valkyrie Enforcer is silencing my flyer and not my Ironthorn. He's not worried about me ramping at all. He just wants to get damage through. Fortunately, I've still got this Banish, and there it is. Wow, that was the first game, actually, or the first game that we're going to be using. So, no, it's actually like the 3rd game. I played like one where somebody disconnected, but nonetheless, here we go. Let's ride. Alright, good, good. Alright, here's round 2. We've got Baja Resident, and my opener, not bad. Double Shadow here, got 1 time, which is what I mostly need. And we got double Justice in case we get Ironthorn. So there's a double time requirement for my 4-drops, but I think I'm mostly okay with this. We'll just keep it. So, Seed of Mystery sets up for Ayan to get that started right away. I want to be able to cast Ayan and Banish as soon as possible. Shadow Sigil there, and a Seed of Progress gets me my double time, so we'll go ahead and set that up. And Seed of Vengeance, I'll be completely complete. I just need the Shadow Sigil after that for Last Word, but beyond that, I think we're looking good. Last Word isn't even all that necessary for this deck. You can run it without it. You can run this without a lot of different interesting things. I think the Ions are particularly important, but most of the legendaries are pretty replaceable if you're looking for particular substitutions. Seed of Vengeance looks good. We'll end our turn, and Ayan should be ready to go in just a second. Alright, that's an Auric Interrogator. Card's a little bit scary, but I'm actually going to attack into it, see if he wants to get rid of a lifesteal unit. Okay, he doesn't. So, as an Argenport aggro deck, I'm guessing that he wants to equip that thing, attack in with a bunch of life gain, and also get the card draw, which would mean a Lethrai Falchion or a... what's the card? Bloodletter. And if he plays either of those, we just Banish, and we get a 2-for-1, and that feels great. I like the combination of Bloodletter and Jack's Knife. That's really good. So that's a 3-for-1. Feels good. All right, fast game 2. Let's see if we can find a game 3. All right, so we've got Seed and Banner, Justice, Sigil, Find a Way. Bit slow, but it looks like it's gonna play. And Sanctuary Priest kind of aids against the slowness a little bit. One thing that is a problem here is that I play Xenan Banner and then I don't get to play Sanctuary Priest if I want to find a way. So it gets a little awkward trying to gain life off Sanctuary Priest, but depending on whether we're feeling like we're facing an aggro deck or a control deck, we don't have to play Sanctuary Priest early at all. So we'll figure that out ahead of time. I actually think since I don't have any plans for turn 3, I'm going to have depleted power then. I could just play Sanctuary Priest on turn 2, and then turn 3 could be devoted to Find the Way into a power. The problem with that is that I then don't have a turn 4 that I like, so yeah, it gets a little bit tricky. Okay, now we have an undepleted power. With an undepleted power, I am... yeah, I think I'm pretty comfy just playing Sanctuary Priest. We'll play the Find the Way, grab the depleted power, play it, and then from there we can play additional undepleted power. Yeah, it's a little bit tricky. I think it might have been correct to play the Find the Way just to set the board up a little bit, but overall it's not going to cost us too much. We're not up against anything fast, so go ahead and grab the shadow we need, because that's important for Ayan. And I'll go ahead and attack in. Maybe we'll see like a Desert Marshal. Didn't see a pause there, so there's no Desert Marshal in his hand. That's good to know. He's actually in the same colors as me. Got a time sigil. We found our second Justice. Real happy to see that. So from here, it's play this so that I can play undepleted. We could get started with Ayan to be a little bit more aggressive, but I'm fairly comfy just grabbing all of the power that I need, which is 3-time, 2 Justice, or 2-time, 2 Justice, 3 Shadow. Scorpion Wasp killing the Sanctuary Priest. I think I'll accept that. That's better than Scorpion Wasp killing an Ayan the Abductor later in the game. And if I play an undepleted Justice Sigil, I can play Mask of Torment.
The touch of shadow.
Nice. And then we just get that extra bonus power. Marshal Ironthorn plays into the 2 depleted power.
You will feed the darkness.
Alright, we got Ayan's here as well. I think his deck's quite a bit different than mine, but we'll see if he's running something similar.
Huh.
So there's an Ayan, there's a little bit of life
Be
gain.
welcome, friend.
Ah! It is the Beckoning Lumen. But of course. Alright, so Ironthorn here.
You've run
Play
far.
2 Shadow. And I will Temple Scribe to gain a little bit of extra life. And what I want is his Beckoning Lumen, because if I steal that, then not only does it activate itself whenever it attacks, I also just get a lot of card draw that I wouldn't have otherwise, so feel real happy about that. We'll see if he's running Cruciation. I'm guessing he is. Beckoning Lumen is a really reasonable card in the Life Force control slot. If you're playing this deck as an Ironthorn list deck, I highly recommend it. It fits a little better than Mystic Ascendant in many ways, and you can activate it in a lot of different fashions. So, yeah. You see Stone Powder Alchemist. This is a card I often neglect for its life gain potential. It is like 4 separate activations of life gain, which is great. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to seek power for undepleted. Does that make sense? It's not too bad. And we'll steal that. And if I want to, I can attack with it, but that doesn't really make a lot of sense, so I'm not actually going to get the life gain draw off of it this turn. Still, this is mine. So I've got my own 6/4 that draws me cards.
Rest here, traveler.
My opponent has his own life force activators. And from here, let's see what we're looking at. Vara's Favor on the 1/1.
Touch of shadow.
So he's not going to attack in this turn, it looks like. Now, once I get to 15, things get really interesting. I think I'll just take that hit, because that means that I can attack in with my 6/4. And if he's got some sort of extract here, like, it's not worth it. We just want to gain the life. So, we're not going to allow him to extract out. Oh, stand together. That's a little bit better, a little bit worse. It wouldn't have matched up very well if we'd matched up the 5/5 and the 6/4, but as it stands, I think it is kind of a crazy good card, so... I'm going to attack for 6 here and 5 back, just get that life gain going. then I will just hard cast Ayan.
You will feed the
And we can
darkness.
play a
Welcome
4/4
to the
Temple
fold.
Scribe? Oh, it should be a
It's
4/5
right here.
Sanctuary Priest. My bad. That's alright. So, draw ourselves an Ironthorn, and we've got our own blockers, so life's looking pretty good from here. Now, I will have the ability to ultimate with Ironthorn. That'll just pop all the Aegises here. That Banish hurts a little bit because it gets rid of the Ayan, but the Ayan's already activated his ultimate, so he's got his value. And we take our hits, but then we just give them right back. Xenan Banner. And I have to decide if I want to Ayan again or if I want to go for the ultimate. I think Ayan makes more sense. So we'll attack here. And activate Ayan again.
Feed the darkness.
Let's get the
Welcome
Temple
to
Scribe
the
back
fold.
again. We're going to throw the book at him. And found our Touch of the Umbren. Cool. So now I can ultimate Touch of the Umbren. Should be a good time. For every life that I gain, I'm getting extra power, and I'm getting pretty close to 20. If I block with Ayan this turn, if he aggresses me, then I get to basically play my Tormentor the immediate turn after. Looks like that's not what happened, so we'll just ultimate,
Judgment has come.
wipe his board, and we'll play Seed of Vengeance, and we'll play a depleted Sigil, because I'm not actually going to be able to play anything this turn. Then I will swing. Ayan and Beckoning Lumen can both swing. I think Ayan's sort of outlived his usefulness, and I want the extra lifesteal at this point, so we're going to go ahead and do that, get ourselves up to 20. That way I can play Ironthorn without any problems next turn, or I can Touch of the Umbren and go for crazy. I do need to get the lifesteal this turn, just so that I get the card draw, so that's the primary reason to attack with Ayan, for an extra card draw. If he wants to throw a Banish or something at Ayan, that's fine, but I think we're well ahead of this now. Okay, an exchange, and I draw the card off the Beckoning Lumen. Found some Find the Ways, which are cool. And from here, it's just Ironthorn, obliterate his board, and swing on in.
Think you can escape?
Desert Marshal silencing, I'm guessing Beckoning Lumen. That actually does return it, because it silences the Touch of the Umbren. That isn't the case with Madness anymore, but it is the case with the relics, so. He's retrieved his Beckoning Lumen, although it is somewhat worse for wear. Now, Marshal Ironthorn will ult this board, and then we will be ready to go to town again.
Let the ritual commence.
Very tempting to steal Katra first, though. I think it's better to just drop Ironthorn and blow the whole thing up. Like, we don't want to deal with Katra. That's not a good idea. So let's see here. Can I do this in any way that actually makes extra life gain happen? If I play Sanctuary Priest first. Yeah, Sanctuary Priest is
Rest here,
4
traveler.
power. But I'll also have 20 to spare. Or 21, rather. And then Ironthorn here
You've run far
plays.
enough. Judgment has come.
And I can swing for 13. I am at 24, which is not enough for Hall of Lost Kings, but it will be enough for Hall of Lost Kings next turn. So if we draw it again, we've got that going for us. Nonetheless, I think I'm in a pretty commanding position. We might expect to surrender here, or perhaps you will fight valiantly on. That's certainly what I'm hoping for. Vanquish on the Temple Scribe. That's got to come back for another Ayan hit.
It's written right here.
Found a Seek Power. That's not doing a heck of a lot for us. We'll just Shadow Sigil. Find some undepleted. Oh, I don't have any power left. That's fine. Tormentor comes out.
I am free.
Big old dude. Swing for everything. Desert Marshal. Probably gonna silence the Tormentor would be my guess. Poor Tormentor. All of that time and he doesn't get to say his piece. So yeah, now we have a really interesting setup. I think we're well ahead of the game. If he's got any remaining stuff that he wants to play, I can touch up the Umbren it. Yeah, we've got a Banish here. We're ready to go. So go ahead and finish things off. A very honorable fight. Well done, sir. Could banish that, but we'll let him get it. Yeah, and a stellar performance from the deck so far. So good stuff. So yeah, that's the basics of the Ironthorn deck. Another fun new tomorrow brew. Here's a version that's a little bit more simple. We're looking at the solely Xenan application of this deck and sort of breaking down the concept to be a little bit more about ramping up to those 8 drops and pushing the value of Touch of the Umbren and other cards by just getting to it as fast as possible with Mask. And then, you know, of course, with the late game, we still have Mask of the Torment, we still have Ayan the Abductor, and we have Beckoning Lumen in this one, which, as you saw in the last game, is really, really nice in a fully Life Force control deck. You get to basically play out and get a lot more stuff going on, you get a lot more units on the field, and it tends to be very, very good for just building a really expansive board. So yeah, it's a fun deck. We're actually using Marisense the Eldest in this one because I really like this card if you can drop it early. It's fairly hard to kill, it always gives you some amount of value, and it will take over a game if it's left alone, which all things that I really, really like in Xenan control. Yeah, that's it for me for today. Thank you so much for watching. I will be back with more Eternal Brews soon. Feel free to like or subscribe if you like this video, and we will be launching, I believe, a Patreon before the end of the month, so keep an eye out for that. We'll post an announcement when it's ready. And thank you guys so much. I really enjoy doing these videos, and it's been a wonderful time just playing Eternal with you folks. So thanks again. See you next time.